Today marks a milestone in our opiate fight that I took on a national level as President of County Executives of America, but also as President of NISAC, but first and foremost being the County Executive here in Albany County, of my own home county. We're at a fork in this nation, and the fork that we're at is that 137 people are dying a day from opiate overdoses. Many more are being reversed because of the Narcan training that we do, the naloxone, and everything else, and all the outreach that we do in the community with all the great providers. But we're at a place right now in our history that we need to stand together in a partnership, work together to change this epidemic. Because I don't care who you are, who you believe in, what color you are, this is affecting everybody in this room and anyone watching or listening to this. In 2015, the National Health Council, Safety and Health Council, talked about the opiate deaths. And I had the honor of speaking at their exhibit at the Empire State Plaza a couple weeks ago. They had 22,000 opiate pills with the picture of everyone that died that year in this country. That was in 2015. 2018, 72,000 people died. Think about that. And I was amazed that the National Safety and Health Council, who's supposed to be promoting car safety, is now talking about opiates and people driving, and that more people are dying from opiates than from car accidents. So it brings me to this point where we're at. So we're going to do an opiate negotiation class, which basically means that everyone that has a lawsuit going, be it in a state, on a state level or on a federal level, comes together. And I want to thank Joe Rice from Motley and Rice, who not only took on Big Tobacco and won a $246 billion settlement, but took on VP, took on Volkswagen for air emissions, and fought for firefighters on the 9/11 air quality in New York City. And a variety of other things his firm's done. So it was a no-brainer when I picked Joe Rice for not just his talents, but for the record that Joe had, but most importantly, what he stood for. So when we talked about how do we go forward, so as today, we filed in Cleveland, Ohio, a document that basically states that everyone can join our lawsuit. So what this does is that out of the 25,000 municipalities that we're talking about through this country, and not states, this is only city, towns, and villages, they have to opt out, meaning if this judge accepts this negotiation class that we're doing, and this is the first time in history this has ever been done, but this also shows the epidemic that we're at in this country that we're using this language. If they want to join in, they don't have to do anything. If they want to opt out, they opt out, and they write a letter. They sign a letter that they're going to be sent, and they can opt out. What happens is they don't give up their right about the cases they have proceeding in their own respected states, in their court system. The agreement is if a settlement happens and they agree to the settlement, all of the cases are dropped. And in order to agree with the settlement, 75% of everyone involved with this has to agree to the settlement. So they don't lose any power, they don't lose any say, but it gives us an arsenal, a tool in our arsenal that's gonna help us come together and let the opiate and big pharma and the distributors know you brought us together and we're taking this serious, and it's gonna make it easier for us to come to litigation on this and come to an end to what's going on, a settlement. So I could go on, but one of the other things though with this is if we do come up with a settlement, it's broken up in 1/3 based on the opiates that were distributed in your respective town, city, or village, the deaths, and what was the third one?
Opioid disorders.
Opiate disorders, and and there's a formula, and they vote on this too. But I do have Joe Rice on from Motley and Rice, and Joe, do you want to add anything to the press conference?
Well, I first thank you for asking me to join you, and I want to first thank you for not only your in helping us move this case forward, but actually for your support in helping this litigation get started and bringing together a lot of county execs around the country to work together to address this opioid crisis. As you've spoken, the class action is a novel approach, but it's a consistent use of the federal rules of civil procedure in our Rule 23 class. And it allows us to unite the voices of large, small, medium-sized cities, counties, towns, parishes, and tell the industry that we can speak with one voice, and we are going to be here, and we're not going to go away, and we're ready to resolve this case on a national basis because we've got a national epidemic, and we've got a lot of strong leadership that's behind it. So it's very important to have leaders like yourself willing to step up. And I know this opioid epidemic is probably a little closer to you as an individual, as a human being, than many of the other government officials because of your past experience on the streets and as a first responder. So I know how passionate you are to know and feel what these people are going through. So first, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Joe.
This class, as you said, allows us to have a way to reach a settlement and quickly get an agreement, if it's acceptable, to 75% of the litigants. It doesn't force anybody into litigation. It just gives them an option to participate in the resolution and to have a voice in a settlement at an early time. And that's the vehicle we're trying to create, because we considered other alternatives, but every time we sit down with a defendant to talk about resolution, the first thing they say is, why should we resolve this case with this group of plaintiffs when we know there's going to be another group later? And why should we pay a lot of money if we're not going to get closure? So one of the things that this does is allow the municipalities, from the fullest extent of their authority, to provide closure, but only if 75% agree to the terms of the settlement. So that's where we are.
Hold on.
So if I could just explain a little bit of background of how we got to this point, and Joe, please feel free to jump in and add anything you'd like. So as you know, Albany County was one of the first in the nation to bring federal lawsuit with the assistance of Joe and his great firm, Motley Rice, and largely, as the county executive indicated, because of Motley's Rice's reputation and Joe's for having handled some major historic lawsuits like the tobacco litigation. So we filed in federal court here. It was transferred to, as Dan indicated, to Ohio in front of Judge Polestar as part of what's known as a multi-district litigation lawsuit. So there are over 1,800 plaintiffs involved in that litigation against pharmaceutical companies, distributors, pharmacies, and we've talked about that. And Joe is one of the leading attorneys in handling that multi-district litigation. And we have the honor that Joe actually sits on the negotiating committee of that multi-district litigation, and the county executive has appeared before the settlement conferences in connection with that litigation, and actually spoken with Judge Polestar in presenting Albany County's position as well as the position of county executives across America in his role as president of County Executives of America. But other localities, and as the county executive indicated, other states have taken a different approach. They've gone the state court route. And in sitting down with the Defendants Council, it's been difficult to reach a settlement because they want to know that there's, as Joe indicated, some degree of finality if they were to reach a settlement. And with so many disparate lawsuits, so many potential other cities and counties and states that haven't yet even entered into the process, almost 90% of the country, which is not yet represented in litigation. The novel approach here is, And Joe deserves the primary, I think, compliment for coming up with this kind of novel approach to how we get the defendants to the table and talk seriously about a settlement. Is we have something different going on here that's going to be proposed with regard to how to handle a class action approach. So we are going to be taking an approach where it will, if Judge Polestar agree, a class action certified for purposes of negotiation, not litigation, to try to get the defendant's attention. And this class will be open not only to the litigants who are presently part of the multi-district litigation, it will be open to those who are involved in state court litigation and to those cities, towns, boroughs, villages throughout the country who are not yet engaged. And the county executive, using both his hat as president of NISAC's executive committee and as president of County Executives America, will be instrumental in a couple of key ways. One, in an education to those who are not involved, as well as to those who are involved, as to what the importance of this approach is and why they should be part of it. And also, he'll be instrumental because Albany County, largely because it is one of the first counties involved in the multi-district litigation, and because of the stature of the attorneys we have representing us through Motley Rice, is one of the counties that are, along with a handful of major locations throughout the country, like Dallas and Phoenix. Albany County will be one of the key negotiating class representatives at the table. So that will give us a strategic voice in this process. Joe, is there anything you wanted to add to that? I just wanted to kind of set the framework of where we are and what this means in terms of historic significance, because this is the first approach of having a class certified as a negotiating class because of the unique nature of the opioid crisis.
I don't think there's really anything I can add. That was very well said. But it is extremely important that people unite and fight this crisis together. And that takes great leadership and takes courage to step out front and do it. And that's what we're dealing with, and that's what Albany's helped bring to the table. And Mr. McCoy's willingness to talk about the truth about this problem and his personal experience has been invaluable. And we look forward to continuing to move forward.
Thank you. And to say to non-attorneys out there, and I'm one of them, that we're stronger together. In this, what we're proposing in this great partnership shows strength for all the counties across this great nation, but most importantly shows the judge and Big Pharma how serious we are about coming to a conclusion with this. So it's going to be a great tool for Joe and his firm to use in court. We look forward to it, and stay tuned, because this is hopefully this will be the thing that tips the scale in our favor and brings this to a close, so we can do the good work we continue to do in the community by having a mobile crisis team responding 24/7 to the opiates. Our Project Orange, our opiate task force here, as well as the opiate task force on a national level where I'm co-chair of, and we can really get to the issue of educating people, to letting them know, letting parents know, letting people know that might have addictions, how they can get help, how we can help them. We're at a crossroads, in the foster care system alone, with kids being born underdeveloped, with lungs, learning disabilities, all from opiate parents. And this is something we're going to be dealing with for the next 70, 80 years. So we need to come to a conclusion on that so we can pull all more attention on this important issue of helping people's recovery, but most importantly, helping the people that were affected by this crisis.